this big hoopla, I think they want to control the timing. Okay, now it's okay to look at these pictures. Before it wasn't.
Yeah.
And now they've released these videos. Okay, now we're supposed to learn more from the videos. Like they're cluing us in slowly.
Mm.
They don't want people to get ahead of the game.
Mm. Mm. You know, and the whole energy thing as well. I mean, it's a huge issue. And to me, I think, as I said, that we have to realise that this technology is real. You know, it's not a debate. It's not a theory. It's real. You can prove it from the available evidence. Therefore, we have to identify what group is responsible for 9/11. You know, is it an international group? Does it have connections into these Zionist movements? You know, I don't know, but it's certainly something that. Pardon?
ARA knows. And
exactly.
if that case had gone forward, we would have gotten them under oath.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we can certainly prove the connection, not to those who did it, but those who covered it up. And you would think that because people like ARA are actively covering this up, they probably have some kind of connection to those people who did it. You know, so we've at least got a thread we can pull. You know, in future. To try and find out more about that. I mean, I think one thing we're going to touch on earlier was the potential of using this weapon again. And back in 2007, I'd heard a lecture by Stephen E. Jones in where was it? Was it in Seattle, Judy? That
Vancouver.
And Jones, Vancouver, wasn't it? Yeah, that's right, Vancouver. And we'd had Stephen E. Jones saying, "Oh, well, you know, we're just putting a warning out here, you know, that if there's a nuclear attack, you know, somewhere in an American city, we're not going to name it." And Beagle said, "Oh, it was going to be Seattle. It had been pre-wired with nukes." And Steve Jones says, "Well, we know, you know, there's 9/11 truthers out there, and we know that if this happens, you know, we're going to get people to go in and collect a dust sample, you know, and then they'll send it to us, you know, and we'll test it for you." And he was basically proposing that people from the 9/11 Truth Movement, whatever that is, should go into this city that had been nuked to get a dust sample so that they could send it to him to test. And they would irradiate. Yeah, exactly. But also around the same time, we had Michael Chertoff claiming that he knew that Al-Qaeda had now got nukes and they were going to use them on American soil. And so Judy and I were putting two and two together and thinking, Also,
Iran was going to get nuked or something. Something was going to happen with Iran. Yeah.
Yeah, they were going to get
Israel.
I think they were bubbling away that story in Iran about it having a nuclear power.
But we thought they were going to get the U.S. might do them, you know, do weapons, and then let somebody else go in there and mow them down.
Yeah, I mean, what I said at the time was it looks like they were trying to set up for another false flag using nukes, or they would basically claim it was nukes, Al-Qaeda nukes that did it.
And use that as a premise to go into Iran.
Well, something like that, but they were then going to use the actual weapon again, you know, which looks like a nuclear bomb going off, and we haven't even covered that angle of it, this whole disinformation campaign, which I've documented about nukes at the World Trade Center. We thought they were going to use that as a cover, Al-Qaeda nukes as a cover for another use of the weapon somewhere. And we were going to go and discuss that on this Ambrose Lane program, which was a satellite. It was on the Power XM channel. I've written an article about this. And we were all set to go on. It was going to be the first time that Judy and I had gone on air together. It was in July 2007. Yep. And we sat by the phone, waiting to get called to go on the program, and the call never came. So I think the next day or a few hours later, I rang the producer and I said, "Have we got the time right? You know, have we got the day right and everything?" And he said, "Oh, they've cancelled the show." And I said, "What do you mean they've cancelled the show?" He said, "They fired Ambrose Lane. They fired the host. They took him off air." So they basically fired him. Yeah. He was driving into his parking space, and he fired the host. They fired the host of the show from the network. He was the most popular host at the time. And that was literally minutes before we were due to go on air with that. And so we thought, well, we must have been onto something with that.
And we were also encouraged by our mutual friend to describe if it's a do weapon, here's what you look for.
Yeah.
And so they couldn't pull it off without being recognized.
Yeah.
There's so much of this going on that it's almost, sometimes it's impossible next to impossible to find the actual smoking gun, but you can find lots of evidence of them hiding the smoking gun, and that speaks volumes in itself, doesn't it?
It does.
But even if you find it, who's going to listen to you?
Yeah. Somebody's posted a question there, I see. I don't know if you want to read that one out, the last one that's come up about the loved ones.
Right, hang on 1 second. I'm not even sure whether I'm getting the same questions as you up on the screen.
Yeah, I think it's come up in the chat window. It says, do they see a method of convincing those who have lost loved ones? Are those people willing to accept what they've been told?
I think they can accept. I think they can handle what happened. From what I understand from some of them I've talked with, they want to know. They want to know what happened to their loved one.
Certainly, they have the right to know one way or the other, don't they?
I agree. I think they have the right to know. I think, to me, I haven't spoken particularly to anyone. I've only ever come across one person who's directly affected by the events, who I've spoken to in the flesh. And I'm not sure. I think you're going to get a range of reactions. Some people just won't even look at it. They won't want to talk about it. And then others, like I think Dr. Judy's, saying they will want to know. They will want to know everything. They need to know everything to get closure. So I think you'll get different things.
It's interesting. I mean, one of the threads that you cover is that you question the existence of any actual planes hitting the towers. Have you ever come under any flack from people purporting to have had loved ones? I mean, you've obviously just said that you haven't, but seeing as I wrote the question 2 days ago, I'm asking it anyway. But has anybody actually approached you and said, like, how dare you, my son or whatever was on that plane, sort of thing?
Well, curiously, the actual people aboard the planes, I've never heard of them saying they've lost loved ones on the planes. What we have, of course, people challenging us from the ground who've witnessed the planes. Do you want, Judy?
Yeah, there was a flight attendant who recently contacted me. I've got a repeat echo.
Well, we can't hear it at this end, Dr. Judy.
Okay, so I'll pretend it's not there.
Yeah, I know it's distracting, but if you could...
I don't know who's talking. It is flight attendant contacted me because they had never, known that there was a hurricane there.
Right.
Let's see if I can... can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you absolutely fine.
Okay, I'll just turn on the volume. So they had never realized there was a hurricane there until they saw my website. They also mentioned that they flew out an hour earlier, but their friends were there who were doing being flight attendants for the flight that was going, supposedly Flight 175, going to, it went into Tower 2.
Right.
And they said those are real people, and they, never came back. So.
It's an interesting point that there's been. I haven't honestly looked at this in any great depth, but there is quite an absence. You would have thought with these things, with it being such a globally famous issue, that there'd be millions of people coming out of the woodwork claiming to have even the most tenuous connection with victims of either in the towers themselves or in the planes or whatever. And yet there hasn't been the degree of that probably in my cynicism I expected there to be. People being celebrity hungry and whatnot. You'd think that the most tenuous connection to anybody that was a victim would grant some sort of celebrity status, and I expected there to be a lot more of it. Instead, there's been a conspicuous absence, isn't there?
They're related to people in the towers, but not in the planes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's mainly the people in the towers that, have come on TV and said, I lost this person in the towers, and we don't really see the same. I mean, I suppose, if you want
Jersey
to...
Girls.
Yeah, I mean, there's a Jersey Girls, certainly, and they were in the film 9/11 Press for Truth. you know, they've been, I think, co-opted into this to quite a large extent as well. But going back to the plane issue, I mean, I did a study of the witness accounts from the first responders, a deliberate study, and this is, you know, I sort of basically tell people this is really the only bit of original research that I've done into 9/11 is the study of the witness accounts. Right. And I catalogued all of that, and I put some statistics together. I made a database, you know, and that's all on the website. And I basically discovered that from the first responders, i.e. the emergency medical technicians and the firemen, I identified 117 people who were at or inside the World Trade Center towers when this supposed second plane struck. Right. And out of those witnesses, out of those 117, only 21 saw the second plane, only 20 heard it, and only 8 of them saw or heard the plane. I think it was 8 or 8%, certainly not many. So it was a relatively small number that actually claimed to have seen this plane actually come in. I mean, this is meant to be a 767 with, you know, 757. I can never remember which one it is, with jet engines that are louder than a rock concert. You know, screaming into the echoing sort of streets of New York, where you've got the sound bouncing off all these buildings and round the streets. It's going to be a huge, great noise, and apparently hardly anybody heard it. And so that's an anomaly. We've got people in the first responders saying, oh, when I got there, I didn't know planes were involved, and in fact I didn't find that out until the next day. And you can go and actually read these accounts, which were published on the New York Times website after a Freedom of Information request in 2005. There's 500 of them. You know, and I downloaded all 500 accounts and then did keyword searches. It took quite a while to do this, you know. Yeah. So people can look at this again. This is a different thread of evidence. This is not so much the forensic, photographs. It's actually a study of the witness accounts, and they can come to their own conclusions about the plane stories. Look at the video record. Look at Richard Hall's analysis that he's done, which was published recently, and it's been very, very interesting. Generated a lot of traffic. And really people should have a good look at that and see what they make of it. Because, again, the plane story at the World Trade Center is probably more complicated than people would like to accept. Yeah.
I think we're going to go to a song now, I think.
You know, and the whole energy thing as well, I mean, it's a huge, huge issue. And to me, I think, as I said, that we have to realise that this technology is real. You know, it's not a debate. It's not a theory. It's real. You can prove it from the available evidence. Therefore, we have to certainly prove the connection, not to those who did it, but those who covered it up. And you would think that because people like ARA are actively covering this up, they probably have some kind of connection to those people who did it. You know, so we've at least got a thread we can pull, you know, in future.
This big hoopla, I think they want to control the timing. Okay, now it's okay to look at these pictures. Before it wasn't. Yeah. And now they've released these videos. Okay, now we're supposed to learn more from the videos. Like they're cluing us in slowly. They don't want people to get ahead of the game.
What group is responsible for 9/11? You know, is it an international group? Does it have connections into these Zionist movements? You know, I don't know, but it's certainly something that. Pardon?
ARA knows. And
exactly.
if that case had gone forward, we would have gotten them under oath.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we can to try and find out more about that. I mean, I think one thing we're going to touch on earlier was the potential of using this weapon again. And back in 2007, I'd heard a lecture by Stephen E. Jones in where was it? It was in Seattle, Judy.